Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm going to talk about UFC 273 today. It's an interesting card. We have two championship bouts in Alexander Volkanovski against the Korean Zombie, Chan Sung-jung, and also Aljamain Sterling against Petr Yan. The championship bouts, there might be two fights which are for the belt, but the fights everyone is talking about when it comes to this event, it's Gilbert Burns versus Khamzat Chimaev. And this is the fight I will be going through this breakdown, because Khamzat is a Swedish fighter, but also his hype in UFC now is ridiculous, and he is 10-0 right now, and 4 wins in UFC, which have been doing quite dominant. But I will just go through the main events, the main and co-main event fast too. So because it is championship bouts. We had a fight for bantamweight, which is Aljamain Sterling versus Petr Yan, and last time they met, Sterling won with a legal knee, so it kind of put a small dent on the fight, I think, because Yan actually, I think Yan had a fight before this illegal knee happened. It was because Sterling had one knee down, and Yan went for a knee, which ended up in Sterling's face, and it rendered the fight in a disqualification for Yan and a win for Sterling. And they have been trying to rebook it a few times, but because of injuries and other circumstances, the fight has never surfaced until this week now. Hopefully, there are still a few days left, so we don't know if something might happen, but hopefully the fight will happen. I do think that Petr Yan will take the fight and win, because what I saw last time, Sterling has good grappling and good stand-up, but I think Yan is one step above Sterling when it comes to skills, and I see this fight might go to decision, but I think it will go to Petr Yan. So we'll see. And then we have Alexander Volkanovski against the Korean Zombie, and this can be an interesting fight. We have seen that Volkanovski is a really durable fighter. He's a technical fighter, both good standing and has a decent ground game enough to survive, which we saw when he fought Brian Ortega at UFC 266. He was in some deep trouble there with both a triangle and a top-mounted guillotine, which I think pretty much everyone would have tapped out on. But he survived and won that fight by unanimous decision. He has 23 wins and 1 loss, and I think he has about 22 wins in a row now. So in this fight, I think Volkanovski will take it, but the Korean Zombie, we know, is a durable guy too. Right now he has 17 wins and 6 losses, and while it's kind of mixed in his win against losses on his record, he always come to fight, and he is a hard person to put away in the octagon. And long fighter, good striking, good chin, also competent grappling. But I do think Volkanovski has his as with Petr Yan, I think Volkanovski will be the one who is slightly better in everything. So I think the decision to Alexander Volkanovski. But then we of course have the fight which everyone is talking about, and that's Khamzat Chimaev against Gilbert Burns. This is a weird fight for a couple of reasons. It's not a weird fight, but the hype is kind of odd in a way. Khamzat is the favorite, but he's ranked 11, while Gilbert Burns is ranked as second in the division, number 2, and it's kind of unheard of a fighter who is so far below the ranking. If you look at the odds at the betting companies, Khamzat is the favorite, and that is really odd when you look at the ranking. But at the same time, when you see how Khamzat have been tearing through his opponents, you can see the hype too. And he have 4 wins in UFC, 10 as a whole in his MMA career. But the wins in UFC have been so dominant that I can see why people hype him up. And from what I see, I also, you can see he have finished all of his 4 opponents in UFC, and he have never gone past round 2. It has been dominant victories. He is a great wrestler, and delivers heavy ground and pound. He also have a KO victory against Mershot. He both led in his hands, and he has of course great wrestling, which is kind of resembling Khabib in a way. He just take his opponents down and stay on top of them and ground and pound them until they tap or until they give him a submission. And he's a scary dude. The only person who actually managed to take this past round 2 is John Phillips, and this was still a dominant performance by Khamzat, but I think it was more Phillips who is a resilient fighter and didn't want to give up until he just had to give up. So while if you look and if you look at the striking record, it's really it's scary actually. He has delivered 252 strikes and only received 2. This is counted as significant strikes, and so they don't count the small punches, but punches that can actually do some damage. But 252 against 2 in 4 fights, that's really scary. I also think that the 2 he received was on the ground from an opponent from the bottom. So he hasn't received really anything on his feet because he closes the distance so fast and take them down. And then from there is his world. The thing though, it's you can argue that he hasn't faced any real competition. But you have to remember he is only 4 fights in UFC, and he had tore through everything they have put in front of him. I do argue myself that his last opponent, Li Jingliang, the Leech, he was a good opponent. Of course, maybe not top, but a good opponent enough, and which I thought would cause some kind of problem because he has a good striking and he's a long fighter, and I thought maybe this can give Khamzat some problems, at least standing, before he can get the takedown. Khamzat had none of it. He just ducked under, went for a takedown and actually put the body lock on Yingli Yang, carried him over to Dana White at the side of the octagon and started to scream stuff before he slammed him down to the ground and then secured a rear naked choke. Yingli Yang couldn't do shit about it. He was just hanging there like a fish on a hook, and it was like a father lifting up his son or something. It looked really silly, and it looked like Yingli Yang was a amateur or something, and that's not the case. He is a good fighter. Khamzat just made it look really, really bad. When it comes to Mershot, he is also a good grappler, and I thought that maybe could cause some problem too. Unfortunately, that fight we didn't see enough of the grappling because Khamzat actually knocked him out with one punch. I think there was one punch thrown in that fight, and that landed on Mershot, and he went down. And that's when you could see that he actually have a really, really good. He has he hits really, really hard too. So yeah. But then we come to the opponents this weekend, and that is Gilbert Burns. One could say that this is another level of competition. I think this will really show what Khamzat is made of. Gilbert have fought and beat many good fighters like Wonderboy Thompson, Tyron Woodley, and also a grappler in Damian Maia. And Burns is a really top level grappler. Even before he saddled on to MMA, he had a great record in grappling and BDJ, and he has shown this in the octagon too. So this will be really interesting. He has 20 wins and 4 losses, and he has actually fought for the belt once. He lost to Kamaru Usman, but he is at that level, the top. I would say top 3 maybe. You have Kamaru Usman up there, and you have Colby Covington, and Gilbert Burns. Funny side note, Gilbert Burns actually fought a Swede before, Andreas Ståhl, which actually trains here in Umeå at Rennie Fight Center, and it was early in his career, but he won that fight by decision too and showed this dominant grappling. It was early in his career, so this will be the second time he actually meet a fighter from Sweden. Burns' disadvantage, I would say, is his size. He is short and kind of small, but still stocky though. So he carries not only good grappling, he carries lead in his hands because of his build. And he has a good wrestling, good grappling, and good striking. Even though I can see that his striking is kind of wild in a way. He throws a lot of hooks which come from outside, and even though if they hit you, you will go down. They will still. It's not. I wouldn't say it isn't technical, but he tends to fall into this wild punch exchanges, but he still has good stand-up. And the thing with Khamzat, we don't really know how good stand-up he has. I have watched some fight from him earlier in his career before UFC, and it looks like he has good boxing and he has good awareness of placement and angles and such. But we haven't seen that in UFC, and we haven't seen that against top level opponents either. So this will be an interesting match. Khamzat comes in with his dominant wrestling. I know that Burns have good wrestling, and can he control Khamzat with can he take Khamzat down, keep him on his back and control him with his jiu-jitsu? Maybe, I don't know. This is what we will see. Or can he even catch him with something standing and knock Khamzat out? I don't know. And this will be an interesting match because of that. Because Burns is dangerous, and he's dangerous, and he's a really good fighter. And I think this will show where Khamzat is on the MMA map, and it is a good fight for Khamzat, I think. But if I should pick someone to win, I think that from what I see with Khamzat, he is so dominant, and he do not care who he fights. So if he can get Burns down and keep and control him with his wrestling, I think it will be a long night for Burns, because he is smaller, and we have seen good wrestlers shut down good jiu-jitsu practitioners before, and I think this might be one of these cases. I do think that Burns might be able to survive and defend, and maybe even attack from the bottom, or have some kind of game going on. But if he gets down on the mat with his back against the floor, I think Khamzat will just be too dominant from there. So I think Khamzat by decision or stoppage in round 3 or something. We have seen Gilbert also, his cardio, and even though I saw now that he trains really hard for this fight, it will be interesting to see if he can outlast, or if he has cardio to have someone like Khamzat over him, or someone who pressure him as hard as Khamzat will do. So yeah, Khamzat by finish in round 3 or decision. And now if Khamzat win this fight, or if he just will run through Gilbert, I think Usman or the other fighters in the top of the division really have to watch out. But either way, I think this will be a good fight, because it will. I like Gilbert Burns, and I've followed him from his grappling days, and of course Khamzat is Swedish, so I will stand by him when when it all come down to it. But if Gilbert wins, of course it will be a good win for him. He will have stopped the hype train, and depending on how good, depending on how he will win, it will also raises stock quite a lot. And if Khamzat wins, I think we will see. I predict we will see a championship fight between him and Usman in the future. So yeah, I am really looking forward to this fight. Even though there are many other good fights on the card, I think this is the one to look out for. Also, we have another grappler. I could just take that fast here. We have Mackenzie Dern against Tisha Torres, and I think Mackenzie Dern seemed to get better and better for every fight she has, even though she has, well, win or lose, she always comes in better. Tisha Torres have been going at it for a while now, so I actually think that Mackenzie Dern can secure a win there, either by decision or by submission in second or first round. So there you have it, UFC 273. I will try to make a video after how this prediction goes, and of course I will break down the fight between I am breaking down the fight between Khamzat and Burns now, but I will be making a video and talking about how the match went. Because win or lose for Khamzat, I think there will be some interesting stuff to talk about, where he's at in the division. So until then, I hope everyone has a great weekend, and I will see you in my next video, hopefully Sunday or Monday, we'll see. But until then, bye for now.